YLE. Today we're talking about squats. And this is one of the primary movements we do every day in life, so there's no reason why you can't be good at it. A couple things we're going to talk about today is 3 main points that we're looking for with a good squat, how to make sure you're squatting safely, and how to scale to work your way down to the full depth of the squat. So Anna, if you would just demonstrate a couple of good bodyweight squats for us. Okay, so this is what a good squat looks like. And as she's going through this, we're going to talk about the 3 components that make up a good squat. So the first thing is going to be your lumbar curve, and that's the curve in your back that's keeping your back nice and straight. Alright, so if you would take one finger, put it in your belly button, the other one right in the middle of your sternum, and then stand up straight or sit up tall. This distance is going to remain the same for every squat that you do. Alright, this is going to ensure that your lumbar curve stays intact. If you start to lose this distance and those hands start to come together, that means you're rounding your back, you're putting a lot of pressure on that low back, and that's where you can get in trouble with some injuries. So every time you're doing a squat, think to yourself, this distance. Am I sitting up straight? Am I tall? Okay? So notice as she sits down, she's keeping that chest tall. One of the faults we see is if you start doing this. Okay? So notice the difference between nice, good lumbar curve with those chest presented out and when she's bent over. Okay? So try and make sure that you're going to keep that lumbar curve tall. Number 2, we're looking for weight in the heels. So the way to accomplish this is to push your hips back when you start. Okay? So go ahead and stand up for me. Instead of coming forward or straight down where those knees are jutting out over your toes, okay, this puts a lot of shearing force on that knee, and that's when you can get in trouble with some joint issues. So if people are telling you don't do squats, they're bad for your knees, if you do them this way, pushing those knees out over your toes, they're correct. Okay, so the way to correct this is to push your hips back, and then when you get into that squat, notice that her knees are still behind those toes. Alright, so that's going to put all the pressure in those hamstrings and glutes and the big posterior chain muscles that we want to be doing the work in this movement. Also, when she's in her heels, she's able to wiggle her toes at the bottom of the squat. So that's one way you can check and make sure that you are in the bottom of your squat with your weight in your heels. If you're on your toes, you're not going to be able to wiggle those toes at the bottom. So when you get to that squat, see if you can wiggle those toes. If you can, good job, you got your weight in your heels. The final piece that we're really looking for here is going to be depth. And this is the one where a lot of people are going to have trouble. So we'll talk about scaling for depth in just a minute. When we get to the bottom of our squat, you want to have the crease of your hips below your knees. So if I was going to put a marble on the top of Anna's knee, it should roll down towards her hips rather than off forward. Okay? So that's the depth. When you put those 3 things together, chest up, butt back, keeps the weight in your heels, and you're getting that crease of the hip below the knee. Now we're looking at a good bodyweight squat. If you don't want to push your arms out in front of you, that's fine, but just remember, this is really just about keeping that balance and giving you a counterbalance to help you get into your heels. Alright, so if you have any trouble with any of those variations on the squat, we're going to talk about scaling in just a minute. Alright, so here's a couple ways that we can scale the squat. First of all, it's all about getting that depth, and we want to be consistent with our range of motion. So the way we're going to do that is to put a target underneath our butt just so that we know we're consistently getting to the same depth. If you're working without a target, you're not quite sure where you're getting to. So as we consistently hit the same target, we're able to step down and actually measure our progress to know that we're getting better. So we're going to start here on this box with Anna. She's got a 45-pound weight on top of a box. And she's going to keep that chest tall, all the things we talked about, keeping the weight in the heels, and just sit back till she touches that target with her butt and stands right up. Okay? So if you've got tight hamstrings, this is probably somewhere you're going to start. As she gets good enough at this that she can get there with no problem, we're going to step down a little bit. So now we've got a 45-pound plate and a medicine ball. Okay? So here she goes. She's going to push that butt back. She's getting just above parallel now, so she's working her way down. And then once she's finally achieved the depth here, she's just going to take that medicine ball off and then go from the ground. So we've got a medicine ball on the ground. Same thing. Here she is at full depth. The crease of the hips is getting below the knee. She's just finding that target and being consistent with it. So this progression may take you a couple of weeks, a couple of months. The important thing is to stay with that target until you can consistently hit it comfortably with good form and then step your way down. And that's the way you're going to find yourself in the bottom of a good squat and work from there.